There we go. All right. Now I can hear my voice. Okay. And so we are live. And now I'm just checking. Right. So everything's good to go. Like I said, if anybody stops by, feel free to chat. So what I'm working on is the next page, if you will. You may have saw my video this morning. And so now I'm just kind of looking at um, doing the next part of the scene here. So I am just going to start doing things like adding clothes in. And again, if anybody wants to stop in and chat, feel free to ask any questions, anything at all. Doesn't have to be about art necessarily. But you can see I've already kind of set up a background and things, but I'm going to start working on the clothes. She's just been shot. So I'm going to go and look at, things that I have, using an old reference of her outfit and using that in place. So we're gonna have uh, her headpiece kind of get knocked off on there, but I do still want her mask that she's forced to wear. I still want that on there. So we'll just put that in there. And you guys can kind of see by watching this live how I'm, the steps I do to go ahead and create a lot of this stuff. And we want the mask to kind of flow off right here. Let's round that up. It's going to be behind the hair. So I kind of curve that way. I have another piece. Curve that back. And we'll put another piece right here. Just kind of have that go behind. Now, what I usually do in order to make the mask see through so that we can still kind of cover it with that gray color, I usually just go in here to the eraser and just take the opacity down. It's about 50. And then what I do is I just kind of erase it out. And then that way, when I go to color it, it'll still show the shape and outline of everything. So I just want to get those lines that are supposed to be covered. And I kind of have to be careful because I want to make sure that I don't either A, erase the wrong lines or pick up the eraser. Because if I try to go back over that area, it'll be a different tone or shade. So it won't look right. Um, let's get this part of the face here. See, I kind of went over that. I don't want that because that's actually part of her mask or veil. Again, I'm just kind of erasing that out. Um, I think that should be it. Let me turn that back up. Then I'm going to erase this back some. And then what I want to do, I'm going to kind of retrace back over this area. And then I'm going to put that kind of a shadow in there. On the neck. I also want to make sure that we connect that right there. And then I can just color in the rest of that dark right there. Kind of connect that through. Just kind of bring a line down. Just add another one right in there. Come back and we'll do 50. And then we'll come back in and erase that out. Now you can see I'm kind of erasing over an area that I don't want to have a different shade with. So you gotta be a little careful. Okay, I'm gonna hit up this area here, like that. Let's do, yeah, we can leave the rest of that way. Come back up 100%. And we can start adding in a little bit of detail there. Okay, so you can see how it looks like she has a veil on now. So next thing I'm doing, I'm gonna look at her uh, hood, like it's kind of wrapped on there, but it's not. It was more connected on the side over here. So what I'm gonna do is kind of draw that out. Again, just using it as a reference. We can get a little bit of her hat right in there. Okay. Now I'm gonna go for just a tiny bit of visibility there. And we can draw that in. And then what I'll do is that complete inside area, we can just fill that in. And then we have a little bit of some depth to it. We'll switch back and look. So kind of widened it. So like right here, and then it kind of come out. Connect that there. Now in hindsight, some of this won't be visible on the final page. You can see I have my guidelines, so that's where like the trim line would be. So some of that's going to get cut off, but that's fine. It's not like super important to the image. But what I can do is now that I have this kind of in the place that I need it, I can kind of widen that and come down and then just kind of erase that out. Okay, we can kind of round that up there and just connect that. And the reason why I'm doing this is I want to kind of show the force of the blast. And so, like I said, we want a little bit of edge right there. Okay, and if we look at the headpiece, we have another section that kind of wraps down. So I want to kind of make sure that that's right. Kind of take that back. It's almost kind of looking at like a Magneto's helmet in a way. Kind of clean up in here like that. And then if you look, I have this, it kind of wraps around the neck because that's what's holding it there in place. And just connect that there. And then what we'll do a little bit of that and just kind of have that trail off that way, like that. Okay. So now it looks like it's kind of been knocked off. Now that means I don't want these lines to be visible. And I just connect that there that way. Now, a lot of times I like to start like this with just base lines, just kind of being out, and then go in and add all that detail later. So I try to add in as much detail as possible first. Okay, so like the first thing we have is the way it drapes over the shoulders. So we just kind of curve that around that way, like that. Again, just kind of erase out those areas that you don't need. Um, and we can see it's a separate piece. So the rest of it is just kind of a part of the cloth there. So I'm just going to kind of draw that in because the sleeve will be different. So I'm going to kind of come over the hair a little bit. And we'll get that first sleeve right inside there. Like I said, anybody who's jumping in, if you want to chat about anything, feel free to ask questions. Or if you have ideas for like tutorials and things like that for the channel for the year, like my video from earlier today, then feel free to leave those comments in there. Now, you can see we have a long drape of her cloth. So I want to kind of make sure I get a few of those wrinkles in there and then come out that way. And then we can just see what that looks like. And that way I can make any changes that I want to. So I could probably shorten that right there. Mm, Look at the way she's being hit and falling. We're going to kind of turn this out just a little. And then I want to kind of get that layer right there. Okay. And then just be forewarned, we are going to do a little bit of a destruction because she is getting hit with an energy beam. So we're going to kind of come off this way. Let's kind of curve that down. Okay. And again, I'll go back and add in some detail too. Let's kind of cut back this way with the arm. I just want to leave like a faint impression. That way we can still kind of see the arm going through the sleeve. Okay. Now I want to do the same. We're going to go ahead and just work the other side of the arm. So let's go ahead and wrap that piece around. So it's that same kind of opening spot right there on the shoulder, just like we did over here. If you notice, I do a lot of like pulling back. That's because I want to make sure that I have a good sense of everything that's going on before I just go in and do something. So like here, our arm is up a little bit more. So I'm probably gonna have that kind of flow out that way from it. And being very aware of what's passing in front or what's passing behind. So let's look at the length of that. Looks about right. We'll just kind of connect that in there. Maybe pull a piece that way. And then like this hair that's behind, and get rid of that. And then like right here on the edge, again, I just want to kind of leave that impression of the arm, just on that underside. And again, because that's right about the elbow, so we're probably actually going to have to stretch this just a little bit more. And just take it out that way. And again, I apologize for it just being my voice. I know you can put music and stuff on here, but I don't really know how to do all that just yet. So figure it out as it go. Just gotta take that back and look. It's pretty good. Let's take this section here. Add a few extra wrinkles in there. Like that. Again, just to kind of give us the illusion that it's dangling off her body. Okay. So now we can start working towards the rest. So we have kind of this cutoff area here. So I'm going to adjust her chest just a little bit. And we're going to kind of come in here and go to the back that way. And the reason for that is so we get that same shape under there. Okay, and then I'm going to have a section right here. Take that back and under. And we'll just wrap that around. Stick out just a little bit there. Okay, and then again, I can just kind of clean up what I have in there. Again, if we look, we have the two pieces that come down the front, so I gotta make sure I get those in there. So we'll just add that. And add the other one right here. Just like that. Okay. So again, always step back and take a look. See what we got. So like once I'm finished drawing, we need to make the energy blast kind of coming through. So I am gonna have like some tear and stuff like that that comes off. So again, if we look, we have these pieces here. So we're gonna go ahead and draw those in. Um, those kind of sit low here. Okay. Now that I have that, I can kind of wrap that around. We can do the edge. Usually, when it comes to clothes, I try not to use too many straight lines. I don't mind it being a little wobbly just because it'll look more natural that way. But again, that's just a aesthetic choice on my part. Okay. And obviously, what I do to one side, I'm going to do to the other. So I'm going to bring that in, come down, and let's go thicker on this side. That. I'm erasing that because I want to add a little bit of a bend and then some roundness to it so it goes with the body shape. So kind of like that. And then if we look, that section piece comes off like right here from the top. So we're going to kind of come across right here, and that'll come off, cut off our section with the red. Okay. Now she's going to end up being, shot through this abdomen area. So first thing we want to do is get that flow coming from that main piece there. So let's kind of make that come out. And just connect that there. Like I said, I can do any cleanup that I need to later on. We are going to erase out those lines. Let's kind of thicken this one up. Okay. We have that center piece. Let's see. It pretty much goes down to the ground. So we have to kind of straighten it out in our minds. So let's do this. We have it kind of flowing. And we'll just take that off screen right there. Again, we have to be able to justify the length and have some consistency. So I have that now. Now I want to kind of get the flow of the rest of the dress. Now we can see the dress is nothing super fancy down towards the bottom. It's just going to be a regular dress. So we can do things like from here, add a few wrinkles, and then have the flow come that way. And then I can just erase the parts that I don't need because it won't be visible. Excuse me. And again, other artists do different things with their workflow. Me, I like to kind of draw over the top. Like I could just add a new layer, draw over the top, and then erase out underneath, yada yada. But I don't really usually do that. So we can keep this shape of the calf here. And then what I want to do is start thinking about the back side of the dress. And how that'll run into this front part. Again, we'll kind of clean up some of those areas. And again, we'll obviously make adjustments if we need to. Let's see, let's actually keep some of the leg shape right there. Again, just so we have that impression of the leg in the dress. Okay. And then like for this area here, we can keep that actually, and then just kind of work in the flow of the dress. And I can kind of run that down that way. And we can kind of clean up inside. And again, once we start putting like shadow detail and stuff, it'll look a lot better when we're done. And again, if there's anybody watching right now that wants to ask questions about anything, not just necessarily what I'm drawing, but something about art, maybe you want me to demonstrate real quick, things like that, you just let me know in the comments on the chat. Okay, so I'm gonna flow this underside here and have a little bit more of it right there. Um, Again, we're going to kind of come back, take a look here. So because my foot is right here, I'm going to kind of cut in. Let's kind of knock that back a little bit. And that way, this will more look like it's wrapped around as opposed to not. Okay. So you can see, since we started this in just 30 minutes, we've managed to get a nice, baseline for the outfit. The other thing I want to do is kind of, emphasize that she's wearing gloves. So like right here, we have the crease in. I can add in some detail there. Um, a little bit there. Again, we're just trying to sell the point that it's not uh, just a basic wrist, that there's like some cloth to it. So we want to kind of do the same thing here. Like that. And then with the hand here, we can kind of adjust it like that. And you can see by doing that, we've also done the same thing and given the illusion. And we want to knock that back. Right there. Okay. Excuse me. We're going to come down this way. I'm going to add in some cloth folds here. Again, just for some detail. You don't have to go like over the top or anything. And now I want to start thinking about um, so like you can see, I kind of drew her a little flat, so I'm going to kind of plump her up a little bit. Um, I just wanted to convey that idea that she's been shot. And we want to kind of tear her clothes up a little bit, so just trying to think. So the beam not that big, so let's go ahead. And at this point, I'll probably add a new layer. Just so that I can get an idea. Basic shape. Just kind of curve that down under that. And tear that way. And then I want to kind of do the same thing here. back. Again, just kind of look like it is going through her backside. Now, with that, since we have that little bit of wrap around, we can kind of go down to our next layer and take out those lines and kind of take them through. Same thing here. And kind of knock that back like that. So now it looks like it's just all, connected. Um, Probably get rid of this little bit here because I want it to look like it's coming out from under it. Okay. And then what we'll do is we can come to this lines layer here and start cleaning up any of that stuff on the inside there. Again, that way it looks like it's more just bursting out into the open. So it looks more like that. And again, we're going to have an energy beam coming through there. So at the detail amount in that area, it's probably not necessary. Um, Something else we could do is detach that cloth because it's being blasted away. So it looks like it's starting to come off. And we can get some other pieces in here. Again, just to add a little bit of extra into the fact that her, clothes are being torn from this shot. So, like when I bring that beam down into here, I want to make sure that it would go behind all of this. And of course, we can do the same thing back here. Some of you are kind of getting a sneak peek of a big event. What's happening is kind of set the course of the rest of this. Um, so now that I have that established, like we could see if I went and took this layer now and I just said merge down. Now it's all one layer. You can see with that in the background, we're going to have ourselves a full scene. Now again, I want to do the same thing inside of here for these lines. The main difference being I'm going to kind of maybe plump up some areas. So like right here, I'm going to kind of go around the shoulder like that. They just kind of come in and erase. And I can hit up this spot here. So again, I still have that same look. I could probably knock down the shoulder a little bit more. And then again, add in cloth. Again, like I said, I'm plumping out her body. I kind of drew her a little flat. So I'm going to beef her back up just a little bit. Okay. And then we also have, the way she's laying and the stuff. So we're going to kind of have that uh, cloth piece up here, kind of drifting down. So what I'll do is we'll have a little bit here, and we'll keep that very thin, just from the standpoint that she is now flat on the ground. And we can add in a couple of wrinkle lines like that there. Okay, so now you can see it's going to look more like it's flat on the ground with the image. And then what I can do right here at the elbow, drag that in, and have that come out. Again, I can leave a faint impression of the arm there, kind of help. So again, now it just looks like it's draped down along the ground. So if I turn this background on, um, where she's laying on the cobblestone, you'll see if we get to coloring, what that's going to look like. Something else that I'm going to do is we're going to adjust the chest again. So let's kind of up in. And again, right there. Okay. All right. So now that we're missing, check on up in here. We look at the general area. It was all wrapped there. So that means that inside of here, around the neck, we're just going to have a piece of the dress like that. And then I'll just go ahead for now and just darken that right there around. And we can do the same down here at the bottom. We want that to kind of have the hair there. We're going to just kind of wrap that way. Around the neck. And bottom part of the chin that way. A little bit of line work right there. Okay. And then again, if we look, I get that region, and we'll obviously tear it up. And we'll have that piece come down here. And then let's just kind of thicken that piece up. And if we look how we have the same section here, how it kind of wraps up and around. And do that same thing here. Like that. All right. Okay, we can always pull back and look at things, see how they are. Here's a little longer, so we're going to probably add in a few more strands. I'm trying to stay focused on this mid region. So let's kind of add in that bottom cloth that got torn. And just kind of have that like kind of draped there. And then we still need side pieces. Those were just a little bit lower. So let's go ahead and we'll make this a little bit thicker. Again, because she wasn't, super skinny. But we are trying to show some distance. So I'm going to take that out. And go this way. Fill that in. And then what we'll do is we'll just kind of round that just a little bit. Just to look more natural. And we won't have anything there. Now the rest of it's just going to be the dress going down. I also need to add a detail on the feet. So let's do that first before I forget. Add that in there. Add that there. And we don't really usually see her boots, so I'm just going to get a simple design. It's all just black anyway. Okay. And now we can start working in that dress. So let's come in this way and use that. And again, we can kind of have a flow and we're kind of flattening everything out. Okay. So like I'm probably going to cut that in some more. erase that out. Like that. So now it looks like there's a little bit more to it. And then what we can do is cause the dress to flow out just a little bit more. That. We can add like a tiny fold there. And maybe a slight little bend wrinkle. Excuse me. And we can do here, so we can add in a few little curves there again to just give that illusion of the dress. And then like right here, bring that in. Let's see what that looks like. Like that. Okay. So now she's down. We want to get that same kind of look. Just like that. Clear that out. And again, in hindsight, could have just picked a different layer and added that on top. Okay, so we have that. So now let's come back. Let's add a couple strands of hair in here. We want, again, to keep that consistency. So we're going to kind of use that there, kind of flow right here. And it'll give us the general idea. It doesn't have to be a perfect match because people will be able to understand that it's the same character. Okay, so now I can start um, thinking about anything else. So like maybe, I want that headpiece down here on the ground. that. I have to make that a little bit longer. I want it to look a little closer. And take that down so it's like slightly going out of view, like that. And we do the same thing here, slightly going out of view. And then we just erase out the lines in here just to show they're connected. Okay, and then you got to remember the inside of it, right? So how much is it actually like, visible? Do I want to fill it in all the way? Check that first. See how that works. And let's see if it looks okay or not. Also want to make sure that that line goes down like that. And I'll just continue to fill that in. I think and a general idea will be gotten on that. So we can probably leave it like that, just filled in. Maybe just for a little bit, we'll have some of the cloth we'll wrap right in there. Okay. And now, again, I want to give those impressions of it being gloves. So I'm going to put a couple wrinkles in there. And like I said, this is where we're going to start um, adding in some detail here in a minute. Put that right there like that. Don't really need to do it too much on the other side over there. And now we can come in and start getting some detail or like the inking basically. The reason why I'm shoring up some of those edges is just to, again, give that illusion of depth. And for the style that I'm using for this particular graphic novel, it's not like, you know, DC level detail that we're going for. Okay. And definitely want to get areas like this, right? So, like the inside of the cloth can usually save some time just by anything that's got like a hole or sleeve, just filling that in. There's no reason to have too much going on inside of the sleeve. It's not something that's important, but we can at least convey what's going on by putting that shadow in there so you can see it adds that layer of darkness to get that going. Um, I usually, when I do details on cloth, I try to just kind of, you know, look at some areas that can use detail, if any at all. So, like down here on the edges of the glove, kind of help with that. Areas like here, the cloth curves. I try to add a little bit of thickness to that, as well as um, you know, trying to find line work that's going to work for the purpose of what it is. So, like here, where we left that kind of like arm impression, maybe adding in another line there. Again, where there's overlap, trying to fill some of that in. And now we can start working on other things. So, like right in here where this fold is, maybe thicken up and add to some of those folds in here. Um, let's see. So, down here, like right here at the curve, over there at the bottom. Um, Definitely right down in here. Again, just kind of adding detail when I feel like it's necessary to be at, but not something that has to be super detailed. Just enough to give it, like I said, that depth that I'm going for. Again, if I pull back, you can see just by doing that how much difference in detail there is between this and the one that's up there at the top. Um, Kind of want to press this up too. And the main reason I'm kind of hitting up these edges a little darker is to kind of gain that ground shadow. It's not a necessity to have. Again, just to kind of give depth to an object that's sitting or resting on something is more what I'm going for. Right. So little things like that can help convey, certain shapes of things. Um, and much like I did in the other image with that, like edge line work, it's the same thing that I can put in up over here. And again, we're not going crazy with it, just enough. to give the same impression. Same thing here. We'll just darken that. Maybe put a little line right in there. Hit that curve. And then this whole edge here, since we are kind of like blocked with the overlay, we can do the same thing and even add to. And just to give us a little difference in depth. Okay, so if I back up and look at what I have now, I can see there's a huge difference. I can also, because you want to, it just depends. Like if you wanted to be like a completely like violent, gory thing that you're trying to do in your graphic novel, hence that's kind of technically why it's called that. But like for me, maybe the initial, shock value here, I might have some blood spatter or something like that. But like in here, I'm going to be more focused on like the pooling of the blood than what's inside of here. So like I can come in this general area here, and we can just make it black from the standpoint that there's absolutely no reason for me. Because with this graphic novel, there's some levels of where like I want teenagers, maybe middle school age, to be allowed to read, and if I have her guts and everything all hanging out, then we're kind of pushing that boundary a little bit to adults only. So we can do little things to kind of again hint at things. So even though there'll be a pool of blood, there's also the hint of that same blood or the injury itself within the image. So like I can have this soft edge here. And yeah, I'm gonna fill it back in some too. Um, and instead of it, being black or whatever, I can leave it with a red color. Again, just to give that impression that she has a severe injury. Now, during the coloring process, I may very well you know, change my mind and just leave it all black. But for now, just kind of setting it up this way. Again, just to give that vague impression. Okay. So you can see now it looks like I have that hole in her body. The rest I'll just have some general pooling and stuff going on. Um, but still, we want to come in and add some line weight. See what that looks like. Yeah, it's not bad. Leave that there. Um, Again, depending on what's going on in the image, yeah, I can determine how much hair that I'm showing right here. And adding in a little bit more shadow can kind of, again, help sell the dread of the scene because we're kind of darkening some areas and highlighting that. So, like you can see as I back off, it adds a little bit more depth to what's going on. Um, I'm going to come in here and we're going to kind of darken that there. And I'm going to kind of flow that way. And just kind of work in different things to kind of help me with the hair a little bit. So like certain areas where there's a fold, I can add certain stuff, like an eyebrow in there. And think of different ways to flow the hairline out. And again, not everything has to be perfect. I mean, just again, it just depends what you're going for. Because if you're really trying to sell like absolute detail and you're hoping like your reader is the one who's going to pick this up and just study and analyze every little thing and you want to be praised for that of like, oh my gosh, this guy just really, or girl was like really nailed the level of detail. I mean, I can see, the breath print on the glass in the background. Myself, we're going for more of, what can be conveyed in a silhouette as opposed to an entire detailing of something. It's like there on the back hand, there's more black in there than there is anything else. And again, when we did the cobblestone and she's colored, you're going to see it come to life a little bit more. And something else, you could do that I probably will do is like this area I could probably box off and really kind of put like a faded blur effect on it and add some distance feel to it. So we're going to do the same thing with the underside of our dress. And again, we can kind of control that shadow overlay and add a little bit more depth to it by rounding it at certain places. Also want to clean up some of this sketchy stuff. So like right here, thicken that line up and connect that through. And now you can see it kind of looks like it's overlaid onto uh, the shoe itself. And then the rest is just adding any and all extra line weights that you're trying to achieve. So again, anything that I want to put in there to kind of add a little extra, something to it to make it stand out more. That's what I'm going for. So like right in here again, where we have this kind of like you know over flapped area of exposure, where it's kind of overlaying into it. That's somewhere else that I can come in and add this kind of a darker shadow base to. And what that'll do is that'll help me sell the actual folds of the clothes. And again, just anywhere there's a fold over, kind of hitting those edges up, making them a little bit darker or thicker. And again, that adds line weight to what you're trying to do. Like in areas like this where it kind of curves in on itself, I can add that in and give me a much more weighted, better effect to it. I'm going to knock that back some there. But again, you can see how it's helped me define the different layers. So I could definitely want to kind of curve that out more. So I can show it passing in front of that section. Okay. Now same thing here as I get to the boot. I can kind of overlay that with some shadow. Again, just to give that illusion. I'll do the same thing, kind of thicken that area there. And we'll do like a little crease here. And we'll thicken that up there. We'll add a little bit of line work there. Okay, so this is what I mean by adding the detail. So now do things like add a little bit of flow in here. As well as rounding those corners off. this back area a little bit thicker. At least right into that area. I'm going to get that little bit of a fold there. And then right inside of here, I'm thickening that up as well. And let's see what that looks like. I'll just pull back some. There we go. And then we'll start. I'm going to start working up the arm here. Again, because the inside follows the sleeve, I have no reason to leave it exposed, at least for the style that I'm doing. So I'm just going to fill that in. That's not good. Accidentally moved the bottom layer. So once I've filled that in, again, I can thicken this part up to look like it's got that overlap over the glove itself. I can probably thicken like these back areas right there on the fold. Get just fill that in black. Get a little bit of that fold there. A little bit there. Again, I'll have some edge work. I'm not using a special like weighted brush. It's just a normal hard round brush. Now, should I probably use one? Yeah, I probably should. All right, I'm gonna fill this in black. We're gonna see what that looks like, and if I like it, I'm gonna leave it that way. If not, I'll go back. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, I like that, like that. So we're gonna keep that way. All right, so let's go down. Steadily flow down into that. Turn this back down to 7. Crease that line there. Catch this overlap right here. Excuse me. Okay, so pull that in there. And we'll adjust the flow on that. I'll probably just stick with the line coming that way and pull that down and do a little bit right in there. Just give us some separation on that. And we're going to curve that in. And we have that sleeve there done. So again, you can see by adding the detail, it's starting to make it pop a little bit more. Okay, so just gonna a little bit of line work in there. And we'll get a little bit right there. Okay. Now when it comes to this cloth, I'm going to add in a little bit. Now we don't have to do too much because it's just like most of a dress. It's most of black color anyway, so it's not like a necessity that we have to like super detail everything else. But make our lives again a little bit easier, like this back area here. I mean, we can just make it black. The same thing if I want to like take a shortcut to show a little bit of extra depth. I can just make that back one just completely black. I think that's what we'll end up doing. So like this whole back area. I can just make the whole thing black and it still has the same premise and idea to it. All right, so we'll just continue to fill that in. And again, we'll pull back and look at it and see, which way we're going with it. Again, if anybody's popped in and you want to ask any questions, you can feel free to do so. I'm here to chat. It have to be about art, it can be ideas for things you want to see on the channel, like things you want me to draw, or just what you're working on. That's cool too. Um, yeah, so it's starting to look good. We just need to work our way across. I'll probably finish up the helmet and then come in and start doing that other side. I don't know why I'm procrastinating, leaving that off. Um, it's just me, admittedly, being lazy on that part. Again, there's no necessarily a rhyme or reason to the type of line shading that I do. Um, I am the type of artist that I lean more towards what looks cool as opposed to what's accurate. so I don't necessarily get confined to 100% reality. It's more just based off of the look that I'm going for. So again, just by adding that little bit, it's adding depth uh, to the image itself. Now, I do want to fix this. This should be a little bit more rounded and not so flat. All right. Again, rhyme or reason, just kind of add some, uh, you know, differentiation from time to time just to make it a little bit more appealing. And we'll do a couple lines there. I definitely want to darken this top region. Again, will just help show some depth in there, so you can see how that looks now. Again, that's why I'm always pulling back and looking to see what I have as a whole. It really helps you get almost like a fresh look on what you're doing. Okay. So again, I'm going to pull ahead to this side just because I know for a fact what I want this to look like. I just need to fill it in. So it just makes it a lot more easier. Kind of jump all over the place. You don't have to necessarily stick to an area, especially when you have an image in your head of what it's going to be. And the nice part about digital is I can just hit Command Z and go backwards. Now, something I have not done in the past hour, which you should always do when drawing digital, is save. So as soon as I finish this line, I need to save my work because usually when you go live and stream like that, you kind of running up your computer's bandwidth and energy and life. So it can cause crashes and things like that. So it's usually a good idea to save in general, but I need to save just because I'm overdue. All right, so now that I've filled that in, file, save as, and save that in there. Let that save. Okay, and now I can come back up and get back to work. Again, I like to, when I'm doing edges, do this kind of like a zigzag type motion. Let's do thickness on the underside. Um, rest is really just, again, based off of how I feel in the moment of how it looks. So, like, as I go back here, I can decide whether or not I want to make the rest of those fingers, black. I can like come back and take a look, kind of like I did here. But I think because of the beam, it's going to be going through her. I think there's certain areas that probably need to be highlighted just to help, bring more interest to the image. I guess we'd say. All right. And Let's see. Now I'm going to come in here and we're going to thicken up some of that. Let's try a couple things here. We have a couple of them spots. Let's see what they look like. Um, let's do some thickness here. Now cut down on some of that area. Right down in here. That'll help solidify the image a little bit. So we'll take it that way. And I add a couple lines in there to see. So I also use them kind of as a reminder as to what's what. So like that's letting me know that it's skin in there. Okay, so that takes care of that. I'm definitely messing with that hair last, just because it's a lot. And I will put off whatever. So let's come in here and I'm going to thicken up the bottom edge to this. Again, it'll help add a little bit of depth without drawing too much attention away from what's going on. And the cool part is that sometimes you can like subconsciously and unknowingly after a while, like do things that actually help the image, right? So like I have everything flowing and leading into the area I want you to look at. So when the beam is there, that line as well is going to draw the attention to that area. So just a little tidbit of information. Again, I just kind of play with lines sometimes, see what looks the best. Looks good, I'll leave it be. Don't try to harp, excuse me, too much on certain areas. Now, the challenging part is going to be I don't have my beam in here yet, so I'm going to have to kind of, you know, work around what it is I'm trying to do. At the same time, I know that it's going to be an intense light. So the closer, the things are to the wound, I can actually just blacken those areas out, much like I did with the wound down here. So like all of this on the inside can just get filled in black. Um, and then I can keep, the stuff facing the front white. And it's a little bit of a time consuming process. Now, again, what I'll do is when I add in my beam layer, I'm probably going to end up having to erase out, uh, some of it. So let's do this, and we'll just leave that blank for now, just for that reason. We don't want to have to, well, you don't want to have to like. So when I draw that beam in there, it's going to cover up most of this. So I don't want to have to erase out all of that in the middle. So I'll leave that for something else to do later. And usually I'm not like this intense with some of the thickening of this line, but because the intensity of the beam is going to be so great in casting the kind of shadow that it's casting, I'm trying to you know make sure that those areas get emphasized to help with the color, uh, especially when it's like time for the glow. It'll help it stand out that much more. So we got that. Kind of thicken that under layer a little bit. And let's highlight that overlap of hair right here. And I'm just being very careful because I want to add as much little detail as I can to the chest area without completely, jacking it up, for lack of a better term. Okay, so let's get that's all torn up. So we actually want to erase out a lot of that right there. And we're going to take that up. And then we want to find areas like this, like with the hair. What that'll do is it'll help us again get a sense of like overlay and depth with the hair itself. You can kind of think of it like we're putting in a tiny, ground shadow for the hair in there. Okay, so we can pull back. Let's see what we got. Okay, so here's where the tricky part's going to come in. I can kind of decide how much of the hair on this backside I want to actually do, um, and then how much not to do. So now we have a little bit there. Um, I'm just going to slowly start building up some of these areas, make them a little stronger. So, like these backsides here, how much do I actually need to see? Right? But we don't want to also take away uh, too much, from everything else going on. And so, like, if I connect this here, see how we start losing the arm. So I want to be careful that I don't take too much of that away. But what that does is it creates, again, more depth for us to see which side's the hair that's coming from the front and which is coming from the side. So, like here, this is all my hair. It's coming from that back end. So I'm not like overly concerned with how much of it's exposed. It's all coming from behind the neck. Okay. And then the same, kind of philosophy applies here with the hair. I can kind of darken as much of it as I need to, at least out here towards the edges, right? Again, that adds more depth in the distance. And then, little things like the edge of the hair there, we can start blocking a lot of that off. Again, we don't want tons and tons of detail everywhere where we can just take advantage of a black silhouette. If you notice, I'm staying from outside of the mask. Okay, so again, if I kind of back off, I can see that that's in depth back there in the back, and not necessarily a focused strand of hair. So again, I'm using shadow and depth to help convey the hair itself. Okay, so again, I can take this back here. And you'll see once I'm done with that, the type of depth it adds just makes it look cool, I guess. Like I said, I just kind of go for what looks cool. Now, there's certain moments where, you want to go for that 100% um, accuracy in something. If you really want to sell the image. But, you know, depending on what the scene is, like something like this, where something like huge and drastic is going on, people are more interested, I think, in my opinion, in the moment as opposed to analyzing it, going, you know, oh, that, you know, piece of hair wouldn't reflect that way in the dark because of A, B, or C. It's not, it's conveying the hair flow without being totally detailed. So it's like, it's not 100% accurate, but the idea of it looking cool is what we're going for. Trim that hair back some. So again, I'm just going to kind of keep just on these back hairs. I'm just going to kind of keep thickening those edges in like spots where there's like overlaps here. And obviously, if you mess up, you want to clean up some in there. And again, I always pull back, kind of take a look at things, what needs to be added. So, in here, add a couple of lines in there. Especially like these hairs more towards the back. It's not that big of a deal. And again, just kind of practice will get you there. It's not any real trick to hair and shading it. That's why I stick with the rule of what looks cool as opposed to what's supposed to be. And I just think it helps me get through it a lot easier. Um, let's see, we'll add some right here. Yeah, tiny bit there. And we'll just keep that back line. I don't think I really need any lines in the smaller areas of the hair there. Again, just always pull back, see what it looks like. So again, it's a lot more detailed than what we started with. So again, everything is being conveyed like she's going to be shot. And again, I haven't put the beam in there yet, but the idea is there. Okay, so we're just going to continue to add more lines in here. And again, I can always get rid of anything that ends up like not looking right. I can just get rid of it. So let's do the underside right here. And this has been pretty much thickened. So I'm just going to kind of darken that. Let's see, maybe just a couple hairs right there. And yeah, that's looking about where I want it. So we have the body, when it's initially getting hit by the beam, and then we have her laid out on the ground. And again, there's a whole, background for it, for her to be in. It's not necessarily defocus of it, but again, once it's colored, things will stand out more. And then we have the cobblestone street down there on the bottom as well. Um, but now that that's done, if we like do things like look at the background, you can come in there and start adding as little or as much detail as you'd like. Now, if you notice, I don't have everything touching the edge. Again, that's because if you look at my layout for the comic, you can see where the trim line is going to be anyway. So I'm not like overly concerned with it. So I'm just simply coming in and we're going to add, little details of like representing that that's wood. So that give like a vague impression of it. Um, Certain areas like I want these edges to be a little bit on the thicker side, just so it looks like it's got a shadow, overcasted, and then I can kind of curve, and that'll make it look like the wood is rounded. It's almost like making a Y shape, and then just going down. Now I'm not going to do like I did with the wood piece back over here and get those like wood grains, just because it's a wooden crate. I mean, it's pretty much been conveyed that that's what it is. So it's not 100% important to have that level of detail. Now, obviously, if I'm up a little bit closer, I may do that. And then like right here, because it's sitting on top of it. And then we're just going to do the same thing right in there. And what I'll do is after I'm done with this today, we'll probably do like an explanation video on the coloring part. I may or may not go live with that one. It really all just depends. I know, like back in this area where we're closer to the wall, I'm gonna thicken that area up again, just to make it look like the stones are butted up against the structure. Again, just personal choice of mine. Um, so you can see now, like it's got a much nicer base, and then I can flow that up that into the corner. It just gives it a little something extra. Okay. So other than that, we already have our cobblestone set up for the bottom frame. Again, they're not the same position, and once everything's kind of in there, it'll make more sense. Like you can see, she's in the alley, um, and then we have her down on the ground back in here. So, like I said, all that won't blend in together once it's in there. But that's pretty much gonna do it for today. Um, if you want to see me live stream, go ahead and let me know if you're watching this on the playback. Other than that, anybody who did stop by didn't really ask any questions, but that's fine. I just thought it'd be fun. Um, but yeah, I'll do another video on coloring process for this. Other than that, I will see you guys next week with some lessons, and maybe go live with the coloring of this. If there's anything you want to see me discuss or talk about, just let me know. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful Friday, and I will see y'all next time. All right, bye.